first condition of NEC 501.15a does not apply to an explosion-proof induction motor. Explosion-proof induction motors are specifically designed to prevent the ignition of flammable vapors or gases in hazardous locations. This is achieved by providing a flame-proof enclosure around the motor's electrical components. The internal construction of the motor, which includes the terminals, splices, and tabs, is considered ignition protected. Because of this inherent protection, a seal-off is typically not required before the termination enclosure of an explosion-proof induction motor. The motor's design ensures that any potential ignition source within the enclosure is contained and cannot propagate to the surrounding hazardous atmosphere. This design characteristic is crucial for maintaining safety in environments where flammable substances are present. The explosion-proof enclosure is engineered to withstand internal explosions and prevent the transmission of flames or hot gases to the exterior. The integrity of this enclosure is paramount to its effectiveness. The motor's internal components are carefully selected and arranged to minimize the risk of ignition. The design considerations extend to the materials used, the spacing of components, and the overall construction of the motor. These factors collectively contribute to the motor's ability to operate safely in hazardous locations without the need for an additional seal-off. Now, regarding the second part of the question, the size of the entry into the motor termination enclosure is a critical factor in determining whether a seal-off is required according to NEC 501.15a. In this scenario, the entry is considered to be 2 inches, which is the size of the opening in the motor termination enclosure itself. The installation of a reducing elbow for 1/2-inch conduit does not alter the size of the entry as defined by the code. The code specifically addresses the size of the opening into the enclosure, not the size of the conduit connected to it. The primary purpose of a seal-off is to prevent the propagation of flames or gases from the motor termination enclosure into the conduit system. This is particularly important in hazardous locations where flammable substances may be present. The seal-off acts as a barrier, preventing the spread of potential ignition sources through the conduit network. According to NEC 501.15a, a seal-off is required for conduit entries that are metric size 53, which is equivalent to trace size 2 inches, or larger. This requirement applies regardless of the size of the conduit connected to the entry. In this case, because the entry is 2 inches, a seal-off is necessary to comply with the code. The seal-off must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and the requirements of the NEC to ensure its effectiveness. It is essential to use approved sealing fittings and compounds that are specifically designed for use in hazardous locations. The installation should be performed by qualified personnel who are familiar with the applicable codes and standards. The seal-off should be located as close as practicable to the enclosure, typically within 18 inches, to minimize the potential for flame or gas propagation. The proper installation of seal-off is crucial for maintaining the integrity of the explosion-proof system and ensuring the safety of personnel and equipment in hazardous locations. Neglecting to install a seal-off when required can have serious consequences, including the risk of explosion and fire. Therefore, it is essential to carefully review the code requirements and follow them diligently. In summary, an explosion-proof induction motor does not require a seal-off based on the first condition of NEC 501.15a due to its ignition-protected design. However, if the motor termination enclosure has a 2-inch opening, a seal-off is required based on the second condition regardless of the size of the conduit connected to the entry. The entry size is determined by the opening in the enclosure, not the size of the conduit.